In the UK in 2017, the idea of an underclass plays a large part in society. The gap between rich and poor in this country is widening at an alarming rate, becoming harder to ignore than ever, with a shocking statistic of 1 in 3 people in the UK experiencing poverty. With this ever-growing gap comes a worry of the way the working class are being viewed and portrayed. One example of this fear comes from the work of Owen Jones in his popular 2011 book, Chavs, The Dehumanisation of the Working Class. In this book, Jones talks of the stigma behind those on benefits in modern Britain, and the way the media portray the working class in society. He writes of the off-power balance held by the wealthy and the way the upper class brand the lower class as thick, violent, criminal. This form of chav bashing is seen in everyday life. One quote from the book reads, "What does the case of Jade Goody show us, other than the capacity of the British media for crassness and cruelty? Above all, it demonstrates that it is possible to say practically anything about people from Jade's background. They are fair game." We are bombarded with tabloid stories on benefit fraud and scroungers avoiding work and using tax money for holidays. In recent years, there have been a rising amount of television shows exposing the lives of people on benefits and those from council estates. Often depicted as a joke and a stereotype, there is a media target devoted to exploiting and mocking the lower class, almost dehumanising and cutting them off from the rest of society. This example can be seen in popular culture, in the form of such shows as Jeremy Kyle, where viewers are openly encouraged to laugh at and revel in the humiliation of lower-class people with less education. This segregation of a whole subculture is dangerous in relation to crime and unemployment levels, especially in a society in such a high-risk situation where thousands are relying on food banks to survive. The divide between rich and poor is also affecting the funding to the NHS, which has always provided free healthcare to all in the UK, not just those who can afford to go private. Even the homelessness crisis is at an all-time high in the UK, being apparently solved by implementing spikes to prevent people sleeping on the streets. This new emerging idea of an underclass was further developed by Charles Murray, an American sociologist who conducted a study into the underclass in the UK. He stated that he found that the welfare system started as a safety net, but in turn had created a subculture of those who do not want to work. He noted 3 main factors, which were crime, unemployment, and illegitimacy. Murray defined underclass as a lifestyle choice facilitated by behaviour. As a new right theorist, he branded underclass people with a list of shared attributes, such as single parenthood, criminal and violent behaviour, and illegitimate children. Murray believed the rise of crime in this country was due to the development of an underclass. He stated, "The underclass are defined by their behaviour. Their homes are littered and unkept. The men in the family are unable to hold down a job. Drunkenness is common. The children grow up in ill-schooled and ill-behaved and contribute to a disproportionate share of juvenile delinquents." Murray believed this issue of the subculture and the rise of crime in the UK could be solved by ensuring people who commit crime were more likely to be caught and punished. However, Murray has received a number of criticisms on his theory. He has been accused of using generalisation in his theory about a number of his statements. It was also brought to attention that his statistics and figures are not accurate and based upon unreliable evidence and sources. One main example against Murray is the longitudinal study carried out by Steve Crane. Murray's views show the opposing ideological views of the idea of an underclass. One theory shows the underclass as an extremely at-risk group of vulnerable people at the bottom of the social ranks, running the risk of being cut out from the rest of society. The opposing theory is the new right theory level with Murray, and sees underclass as an inevitable, self-perpetuating culture made up of those at the bottom of the class scale engaging in criminality, creating a criminal subculture where individuals engage in drug use and depend purely on the welfare system. This theory was based on the works of Oscar Lewis. In the current crisis in cuts to welfare and public services, we are forced to ask if the way we demonise the underclass is a way to rationalise the effects to people's education and rights. We can see clearly the way the term chav has serviced to shame and degrade those who fit into the underclass subculture mentioned. The media's coverage and the seeming attempt to segregate the underclass from general society is a worryingly normal feature of everyday life. This showcases the ever-growing ways of normalising the dehumanisation of vulnerable people in our society from lower-class backgrounds where circumstances and reasoning are not often taken into account.